First and foremost, all thanks and praises unto our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Wa Rakakwadash. Peace, blessings, much respect to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, on down to the rest of the elders who rule well within Israel. Salutations to the hopeful elect throughout the four corners of this whole entire earth, no matter where, whom they may be, or what they may look like, pushing out this purified truth to the rest of the church who believe as well. You men who may not be teachers or prophets, you women, sons and daughters also. And the water to Yahweh Shai, because without him enduring and going to that cross for the nation of Israel and the nation of Israel alone, none of this would even be possible whatsoever. This is Revelations chapter 7 and verse 1. And after these things, I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth. So who are those four angels? Those four angels go into Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael. And the four corners go into north, south, east, and west. Okay? And after these things, I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth. That the wind, and that wind is speaking of what? That nuclear wind. That the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. So when it says the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree, what is that speaking of? Well, the sea represents people. When you go to the book of Revelations, chapter 17, it's either 15 or 5. Let me try 15. Revelation 17 and 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So the sea, or the water, represents people. So that wind that's going to blow on the sea is speaking of that nuclear wind that's going to blow on the people. And it says, nor on any tree. Now that can go into physical tree, of course, but that's also speaking of people, because in the scriptures, it goes into how people are likened unto trees. That's in, let's touch on Mark. Let me see. This is the book of Mark, chapter 8 and verse 24. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. And I believe this is when Yahweh Shai had performed a miracle of a man who couldn't see. And Yahweh Shai, I believe he had touched his tongue and then touched the man's eyes. I'd have to go into the story again. But when he had touched the man's eyes, I believe he had saw men walking as trees, showing you that trees represent people. The scriptures also tell you that a tree will be known of his fruit, speaking of us as people. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. Revelation 7 and 1. And after these things, I saw four angels. So I explained the four angels, okay, standing on the four corners. I explained that. Of the earth, holding the four winds. I explained that. And the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So once the elect is sealed, once the 144,000 is sealed, that nuclear wind is going to be sent off. Okay? That mighty wind that is spoken of in Revelations. Let's touch on the Apocrypha, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and 20. His severe wrath shall be sharpened for a sword, and the world shall fight with him against the unwise. Then shall the right aiming thunderbolts go abroad, and from the clouds, as from a well-drawn bow, shall they fly to the mark. And the clouds are speaking of chariots. How do we know? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 104 and verse 3. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters? And I already explained the waters going to the people. Okay? Who maketh the clouds, speaking of them chariots, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, showing you that these vehicles fly. So this ain't speaking of some horse and chariot on land, because what this is referencing flies. A cloud is above you. So these chariots, they are what the world will call today as spaceships, UFOs, all these different names, but really they're chariots, and they've been identified. Who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers of flaming fire, because the angels are the ones who drive what's known as the clouds or the chariots. So going back to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and verse 21, then shall the right aiming thunderbolts go abroad from the clouds, speaking of the laser beams coming out of the chariots, and from a well-drawn bow shall they fly to the mark. And hailstones full of wrath shall be cast as out of a stone bow, and the water of the sea shall rage against them, and the floods shall cruelly drown them. And this is speaking of the literal sea this time. Okay? Now, I like to reference when I read about this, there's a $100 bill with the blue line, I believe it has on it. The more recent ones, if you fold it a certain way, it shows a nuclear missile going into the sea and the water basically being enraged. So this is the point. Verse 23, Wisdom of Solomon 5 and 23. Yea, a mighty wind shall stand up against them. So this is the wind that are being held back by the four angels until Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai gives them the okay. Okay? And that okay will be done once the elect is completely sealed. You have certain men who believe the elect is sealed, but if that's the case, why haven't the missiles gone off yet? Okay? Yea, a mighty wind shall stand up against them, and like a storm shall blow them away. Thus iniquity shall lay waste the whole earth, and ill dealing shall overthrow the thrones of the mighty. So that mighty wind is going into what? The thermonuclear missiles. Okay? So going back to Revelations chapter 7 and verse 1 again. And after these things, I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth. So the four winds is going into that nuclear wind, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. So no one's going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles, and that can go into the actual sea as well. Okay, the actual trees as well, but it also represents or represents people. Okay, so those missiles are not going to be sent off to Babylon until the elect are sealed, and the elect are almost sealed. Okay. Revelations chapter 18 and verse 21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea. Speaking of the people, like I've gone into earlier, which if that's not clicking, I'll pull out another scripture to help. Okay. Matter of fact, what I'll do, I'll hold this, but to also show you that the sea can represent people, let's go to Isaiah chapter 17 and verse 12. Woe to the multitude of many people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. Just like if you were to if you were to fly in a helicopter and you were to fly over a football stadium, and you were to hear all those people yelling, okay, it would sound like a great noise. It would sound like a rushing of people. It would almost look like you're flying over water, okay, to see a whole bunch of people cluttered together. Well, those nuclear missiles are going to be dropped over the sea, a sea of people. Speaking of those who were on Babylonian lands when the missiles drop. Woe to the multitude of many people which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. Revelations 18:21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, speaking of the nuclear missiles, and cast it into the sea, speaking of the people, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. So once the elect are completely sealed, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to completely destroy Babylon. That is the future of America. Okay? So a lot of people may be playing games thinking they have all the time in the world to waste. And here it is, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is sealing up his elect, getting ready to destroy this place, man. Okay? And if you don't have this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, you are going to be caught up in that. Okay? Let's touch on, what scripture is that? Let's go to Jeremiah 25 and verse 32. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation. And what is that evil speaking of? The intercontinental ballistic missiles. And a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. And the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from the end of the earth, even unto the other end of the earth. They shall not be lamented, neither gathered nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground. So during them nuclear missiles being sent off, many people are going to be put to death, and there's not going to be any funerals, some burial, people coming together weeping over someone's loss. Okay? It's just going to be total destruction and chaos outside of the deliverance for the elect of the nation of Israel, which I hope to be a part of that. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. Lord willing, it was simple and edifying. All thanks and praises unto our power. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Wa Rakakwada Shalom.